Hello, Frank.
How are you?
Hello, bro.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good. Okay, good afternoon. We will start with Paul and we'll do a dailies after the broadcast section.
Hi Frank. 7 consecutive wins, 21 goals scored in that time. Are you seeing this team grow in front of your very eyes over the last month or so?
Well, we're improving, and that's the main thing in football actually. But that's what we've been striving for since the beginning of pre-season. So the really pleasing thing is to see really good signs in those 7 wins. Lots of things that we like, lots of things we also know we can keep improving on. But it's nice. I don't want to get carried away. Football will always bite you if you do, but at the moment with the improvement that we're getting, that should actually encourage us to keep working and look for more.
Are you having to manage sort of those higher expectations perhaps earlier than you maybe expected?
I don't know. I kind of did expect them anyway because of the nature of Chelsea and the managing this club. You know, people do expect transfer ban or no transfer ban, etc. So I don't mind that. I'm used to it as a player. It's positive at the minute. I'd rather be managing expectations in this way than flip it around. So I'm pretty happy. I try not to listen too much talk that goes too far ahead about where we might end up or what might be in the future. The minute we do that, we'll have a problem. So it's just nice that we're working recently in a really good direction.
How much have you spoken to the players this week about what happened on the opening day of the season? Has that been a factor in coming up against the same opponents in the League Cup tomorrow night?
No, I said nothing about that. It feels like a million miles away and gone. You know, I'm not disregarding it. When you play against the top team, like Manchester United with top players, they can hurt you in moments, and they did it to us 4 times in a game that we performed pretty well in. So I don't think the context of that is going to be hugely relevant tomorrow night.
You spoke recently about how much of a soft spot you have for the League Cup. Is this the ideal trophy to target this season for maybe this group of players? Can you draw any comparisons to your time as a player with Chelsea and that first League Cup trophy?
I will target them all. I know what you're saying. It's one that comes at the earliest in the year. You find yourself very quickly potentially in the quarterfinals if we win. So yeah, we'll target them all and certainly give it a professional approach where we want to win every game and know that we're up against a top opponent tomorrow. So yeah, we'll give it the same focus as we gave Ajax last week, and we'll give Ajax next week. You know, every game must be, as a Chelsea player, something that you give absolutely everything to try and win.
Off the back of the fantastic win against Burnley, what have you said to Callum Hudson-Odoi just after the yellow card and the subsequent Sean Dyche comments?
Nothing. I said nothing to I didn't feel the need to. I asked him on the day of the game, straight afterwards, after my press, what happened. He said he got a touch. Clearly when you see it back from behind, he gets a hand on his back. I know it's light. I'm not saying it's a definite penalty, but it's not a dive. I'm not sure if Sean maybe had watched it back and all the angles when he spoke, because it wasn't a dive as such. Because if that becomes a dive, you'll start analysing every bit of contact. How much was it? Was that enough to put Ashley Barnes on the floor or not? Was that enough for Callum to go down or not? That is the game. Those are the grey areas. I didn't think the whole, in 5 or 10 years, this is where the game's going to go, was probably the right nature for what turned out to be nowhere near a clear-cut issue.
Last one, Paul.
Would you like to see maybe referees go across to the monitor a lot more? Would that help?
Yes. I think it's part of VAR. I assumed when it came into the Premier League that would be the case. And I think we're at the point now where, from my point of view, I think they have to. And it's difficult. Again, I'm not one to bang the drum. It's not easy. Even with VAR, there is an element of the human involved, because they're the ones that are checking it, and it's slightly opinionated. I think at the weekend we saw it flip slightly the other way from what it had been already, with some decisions being changed, and hopefully we find the right middle ground as soon as possible. And I think seeing the monitor on the side of the pitch is a way forward.
Thanks.
Frank, I don't expect you necessarily to name your team here and now, but in the last round, Reece started, Reece James, Mark Gahey, Billy Gilmore. Will it be a similar team tomorrow night? Because they probably
Give us the name team.
Yeah, go on, actually name the team, yeah.
I have to be aware. I got asked a bit after Burnley about the the fact that we haven't changed that much, that's my prerogative, and I think the team's going pretty well. So this game may be opportunities for other players that are not playing, not necessarily to do with age, not to do with maybe minutes in games. That might even mean some of the experienced ones playing minutes that haven't been getting them.
Is Kante fit? Yeah. No. Okay. I'm really good. No. Okay. Good. The trajectory of both clubs since the opening day. I mean, you've gone way up, and obviously on this unbeaten run. United have really been stuttering. Is that fair?
I don't want to talk about United too much. The points in the table does speak, and our points total since that first game has been nice. We always want more, but it's been pretty nice, and it's not worth focusing on Manchester United, other than the fact to say that they're a team full of top players. You know, when you think of what they recruited in the summer, 3 very good signings for big money. Already players at the club that are good players, and it can be difficult for any of us. Manchester United, Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal, everyone's talking about it, that this is the Premier League, and I don't think we should focus on this in only the period of 10 games. As much as people shouldn't get too excited about what we're doing, people shouldn't be too critical, I think, of other clubs as well.
And in terms of the League Cup, you've already spoken about your affection for the competition. You did win it with Jose. This group of players, we always talk about the young players, and there could be 6 or 7 in the England squad next summer at the Euros. You brought so many through, but if they were to go on and lift silverware in this competition, that would be an incredible achievement, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it would. It always will be. When you think that Chelsea got to the final last year and were beaten by Manchester City, and we all know how good they are, so it shows you the difficulty of this competition and the prestige that should go with it. A day at Wembley for the fans is never. I never take that lightly, and we shouldn't do. So, for the whole squad, not just the young boys. I think it's a competition we value. I valued it as a player, as I said before, and we'll give it our all.
Martin.
Hi Frank, it's just a simple one, really touching on what Mo started with. I mean, this is Manchester United. You wanted to play all the time. You didn't like being rotated for these kind of competitions. Is it going to be an awkward decision to how you're going to work out who should play and who shouldn't? Because you could almost look at it as a standalone game and a progression into a quarter-final. In your short managerial time, will it be one of the more awkward things you've got to do?
I suppose it's something, you're right, I did want to play every game, and the beauty of experience maybe and sitting on this side is that you just do see it slightly differently. You try to think about the bigger picture. I think the demands, even more in the modern day, are more on the players, so I have to take those things into account, but I don't want to in any way take this game lightly. Even if I make changes, I'll make them because I believe in the squad being strong throughout, and if there are players that step out of the lineup with a view to the coming weeks, it will be done in the big picture. So I understand how players are, and some of them want to play. I will try and have the right conversation with them to let them know what the position is, and the players that start will give everything. The players that don't, or on the bench or out of the squad, will be supporting hugely. That's we're going to be hopefully successful.
They're all playing well for you, aren't they? Whether they played 10 minutes or 10 games.
Yeah, it does, and that's the nice feeling that we have around at the minute, and it makes the idea of do I make changes a little bit easier. But again, I won't take it lightly, but no, they are playing well, so that I have to take that into account in terms of the rest and what the strains are on the body, because the outputs of the games, and we do a lot of the sports science, and I'm not absolutely aligned to sports science. Sometimes you can disregard bits of it, but the output in our last 2 games has been really strong for a lot of players, so I sort of have to look at that side as well.
Okay, last question, Carrie.
Frank, I know you've been following the Rugby World Cup, so a bit of a crossing of codes. Eddie Jones really built his success of his team and making sure his player believed in not being just substitutes but being replacements, and that final phase of the game being as important. Have you got a depth of squad now that you almost need to make that message as important, that the bench is as important and need to be as strong as the rest of them, because those performances seem to be following through on them?
Yeah, there was nothing better for me recently than the subs at Newcastle helping us win the game. Christian Pulisic with an assist, Kovacic came on and played well, and nothing better than when that happens in Ajax, when Christian again assists for Batshuayi. That's the great message for the players, because it's horrible. I hate not playing, and sometimes as a manager it's difficult to not play people again and again because the team's playing well, and to keep their spirits up so they can come in and be that game changer, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that's something I'm big on here. We need a big squad if we want to be successful. Players need to feel valued whether they're starting or not, and they need to have input when they come on, and that's what they're doing.
Good one.
And we're talking about VAR, a lot of players talking about how they react now and they pause when a goal goes in. What's it like for a manager?
same pause, isn't it? I mean, it's one of the facts of VAR that I think is slightly disappointing. What comes with it, we're taking away that element of the game where you have that spontaneous celebration moment, and that's a bit of a shame. So the balance of can we get the right decisions as opposed to that moment is something that I think we all toy with a little bit, and I suppose that's why we're a little bit on VAR's case, I would say, week in, week out now, because if we have it, we want it to be perfect, and that's what we're working towards. But yeah, I think those moments are lost slightly, which is unfortunate.
Okay, cameras off, please, Dailies.